Welcome to Deco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by EdTechity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
What's up, everyone? This is Professor G, and today I brought back to you once again Tio Rob with his enormous amount of knowledge and advice to really help us, make the best of our careers, make the best of our everyday life, et cetera, et cetera. So welcome back, Rob, expert business and life coach.
Thank you very much. I love being here, and I always appreciate our time together.
So Rob, today we wanted to talk about, we're now on episode 5, which is using and applying those tools, right? Your tools, the tools you've been developing. Right. If you haven't had a chance, take a listen to episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, because there's some really deep stuff in there on how to really get your mindset ready, right? To then move into the application of some of these tools to really begin changing your life. So Rob, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So the first thing I would like to say is, if you are a professional athlete, you're going to make your body is going to be your temple. You're going to make sure you eat correctly. You're going to make sure you exercise, and you're totally prepared to be a good professional athlete. Okay. So
right. You don't have to tell a pro athlete to go work out, right? You don't have to tell them. They're working out. They know my muscles and my heart and my cardio has to be at the best. Right. So they wake up early, they work out, etc. So, okay. All right.
Exactly. So what I've been talking about so far is your emotional and mental preparedness for whatever it is you want to do. Okay. Get yourself to be your healthiest, strongest, best positioned self. And that means, knowing who you are, embracing the 4 agreements. We've talked a lot about that. Embracing those things that you would like to see as the best qualities in other people, and embrace those and make those qualities yours as well. Honesty, integrity, good work ethic, life-work balance, and all those things are super important. It doesn't do you any good to go through and get an education and start a career, and in 8 or 10 or 12 years, maybe you get married and have some kids, and you can't stand your life. You don't like your wife anymore. Your life is not getting you places. So if you get yourself in your best possible position, if you've if you got yourself in mental and emotional fitness, okay, you're going to have a much better time. So now your head is right. Your ethics, your morality, you know who you want to be as a person. You want to use power over versus force. Force is a physical, I'm going to get this done. But true power is concepts, is a rainbow of things that people are attracted to. Now you got power because you're using not your anger, you're not using your physical threats, you're not using intimidation, none of those things. Instead, now you're like a moth that wants to go to a light. You want people to get to you. So now you use those tools all through your education, whether it's a technical education, whether it's a professional education, whatever you're doing. Practice using those tools and get good at them. So now it's time to knock on the workplace doors, right? I want a job. I want to do something. So what I thought I would do is look at how these tools are used and how they benefit you in different scenarios, different ways. So let's say that, for example, the first example I'll use is let's say you want a business. You want to participate in business. Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, okay. So you before you even go and apply for jobs, you learned a lot in business school. You learned a lot about accounting and finance and
economics,
manufacturing and so forth. Yeah. And one of my favorites, by the way, that I don't know if it's still being taught today. Maybe you can answer this question for me. Edwards Deming. Is Deming taught in schools these days?
To be honest with you, I don't know who Edwards Deming is, so probably not.
Okay, so he's the guy that developed all kinds of incredible advanced workplace solutions, brought them to Detroit for the car industry, and they said, nah, we don't need that, we're doing great. So we went to Japan. This is post-war Japan, and they embraced everything he had to say. And in a reasonable period of time, they overtook Detroit on how to do these things. So I say that as an example because he brought solutions.
He was an organizational developer,
businesses.
right?
So if you're in business,
Yeah. So he was an organizational developer. He understood how to change things and make things work better in terms of business and manufacturing or whatever it is that's being done. Yeah.
That's you got Toyota and Honda and all these big companies that embraced him and used his guidance. Then Detroit
and then made billions and billions. Because they fixed something.
So in business, for example, like let's say that you graduated and you want a job in business, okay? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've had literally hundreds of businesses that I've advised, listened to, done recruiting for, and so forth. Well, the thing that impresses people the most is your ability to listen and ask intelligent questions as opposed to just selling yourself. Okay? So you're sitting there, and what I mean by that is this. So let's say you're in an interview and they're talking to you and so forth and so on. Maybe you might make a comment like, well, I went to business school because I want to be a solutions provider. I really want to understand how I can help businesses grow. So, if you had a magic wand and you can make 3 things happen for your company, what would they be? Mm-hmm. Maybe he wants to make more profit. He wants to grow, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the answer is, right? And your response would be, well, I would love to help you with that. Okay, that's the kind of problem that I was trained and educated to solve. So if you give me the opportunity at any level, let me show you what I can do. And by the time we get up to the bigger problems that you've got, maybe I'll have impressed you enough, and you'll embrace using me as a key team member to solving that problem for you. Are you interested?
Exactly. You rephrased it in a way that you're there to help, you're there to learn, right? You're there to assist them in getting to whatever those goals are going to be. But if you wouldn't have asked that question, you would not know where that organization wants to go.
No.
Yeah.
And you might spend your time talking all about the classes you took and the grades you got and what you're looking for in a career and blah, blah, blah. You know what? I didn't really care what you're looking for in the way of a career. I need somebody
this is
to
great,
help me
Rob.
do this.
This is great because our listeners, some of them, are thinking about going to college. Some of them are in vocational training programs. Some of them, finished high school, and some of them didn't. So this is great that the advice you're giving lets people understand that, hey, once we get to that interview stage, right? Once we get to us really landing that next job, right? That's going to get us, to the next phase of our life. And then, we really need to strategically ask questions, right? We need to listen more attentively, right? And like you said, it's not only about selling yourself. Part of it is selling yourself. Yeah. But you can sell yourself easily by engaging with them in the way you just shared with us.
Exactly. Well, see, and that comes from 50 years of sales training as well. Okay.
Yes.
And if I've learned nothing else in sales training, it's all about having the person tell you what they want. Mm-hmm. Now you know what they want, and now you have to be sharp enough, prepared enough to answer that question and say, well, here's how I can help you solve that problem.
Yes.
I mean, maybe the right thing to do is to start a career in sales. Maybe it's video components, maybe it's tires, maybe it's plywood. I don't care, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. But the key to selling is solving problems for people. Sometimes they know what the problem is, sometimes they don't. Okay.
Right. And you could be there gaining skills and then on purpose, right? Hey, I went into sales on purpose. I want to learn this for the next year or two. And then I'm coming back to this other thing that I know how to do. But now I gained 2 years of sales experience. I know how to sell things.
How often in our life are we selling? Mm-hmm. Okay. You're out for a date. Okay, you want to get a deal in a car. I don't care what it is, but it's all about understanding yourself, getting yourself prepared and trained, getting yourself to be in a position where you really want to know. You want to know, man. You want to know what is going on in this person's head. So if you decide that the first thing you want to do in business because you really like small engine repair. That's what you want. Okay, great. So the people that are going to be bringing you their stuff what's important to them. And you want their business, and you want to keep their business. You want them to have their friends talk about you and what a great job you do and so forth and so on. The door is open if you find out what they want and you ask them and you understand what your clients want. So you might have an opening line that says, well, people don't just come into my chainsaw repair company because their chainsaw is not working. They want to get back to work. Maybe they do this for a living, okay? So my job is to get them able to do what the task is, and I want to do that for you. And I want to do it affordably, and I want to do it perfectly, and I want to do it in a way that you can rely on. That's my job, okay? So, the best, when I had my first radio show, I had a frequent guest on there. And he ran a number of Ace Hardware stores in San Francisco. And he was the most profitable Ace Hardware store in the chain. He was on their board in Chicago. And he was my best guest. And the reason he was my best guest is because his philosophy was to make sure that everybody in the company was embracing the attitude of saying, how can I help you? And how can I listen to you? And his job, on his business card, it said keeper of the karma. Okay? Keeper of the karma, man. He wanted people that worked there to really want to work there. And he wanted them to embrace the idea that they're there to help people. He says,
the customer service. Yes.
Our currency, our purpose is to have money walk in here. And what we're not selling hardware. We're selling solutions. We're selling service to people that they really need and enjoy. Right. That's our product. Anybody can take a box of bolts and say they're $5.99 and they're size 3.
Right.
It's not what we do. So, we
know our products. We educate people. We say, oh, you're building a fence. This is this. It's that customer service to give people options. Right. And then you let them choose.
I've got my degree, I've got my training, I've got my technical training or whatever, and I want the job, okay? So the way to get the job is not to sell that person on what you can do, but to find out how you can help them. What problems do they have that you're going to help them solve? Now you're demonstrating your great listening skills, you're demonstrating your purpose of being an employee is to serve the employer and solve their problems. It's not to get a paycheck from the employer. You're going to get that, okay? It's not to earn your commissions. You're going to get that. But you're not going to have the opportunity if all you do is go in there talking about yourself and all the great things you can do. You got to get on their page, man. And they're not going to hear too many people like that.
Yeah, because from my experience as a counselor, I work with a lot of first generation, low income kids, right? Getting them through school, getting them to college, getting them to that degree. Once they get that degree, right, now they're applying to professional jobs, and I see a lot of deers in the headlights. Just, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this. I've never applied to a job that says, associate's degree required. I've never applied to a job that says bachelor's degree required, master's degree required. And there's this big gap of missing information, right? And missing behaviors. We don't, I know how to walk into Food for Less and get the job as a janitor. That's easy. But if I'm trying to walk into Food for Less corporate offices and get the job as the senior accountant, that's a completely different type of interview skill, right? And what you've just provided us is that ammunition is how do we sell ourselves in a way, right, where we're solving other people's problems.
Exactly. And the problem is that for most people, whether they are first generation or whether they just live they were not brought up, they were not domesticated in an environment where these concepts were shared or expressed, or they didn't have a mentor necessarily to follow. I get that big time. I'm of that ilk, okay? I may be light-skinned and all that, but believe me, I was not prepared to go out and get a professional career. That's just my upbringing. So the point being, I was blessed to know and to get to my first job was in San Francisco in 1973, and it was in the insurance industry. And the guy that brought me in was a really good guy. He wound up being my partner for 33, 34 years before he died of cancer.
Oh, wow.
But he he really opened a lot of eyes and doors to me. We formed an insurance agency. We were very successful. That led to a consulting company, led to everything I'm doing. So I had that exposure. So honestly, in my life at this point, the reason we're sitting here talking is that I want to, in the worst way, share what I've learned with people about interpersonal skills, attitudes, what they say, how they say it, what's important, what I've learned. And you know, if they follow the advice I've been given so far in the first 4 episodes, and they embrace that personal commitment to practicing and adhering to the 4 agreements and other points of good ethics, you know, be the Stephen Curry in the locker room, be the LeBron James, be the leader that is everybody can get along with, everybody likes, everybody trusts. Okay, trust is huge. And so if I'm going through my career path, technical, professional, medical, whatever it is, okay, be that person first of all, and know that it's going to be difficult. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be long nights and short days and income problems and, you know, other relationship problems. You might find, well, I lost a lot of weight, right? And I found that a lot of people that I knew and that knew me my whole life and so forth, you know, they kind of shied away because I'm a different person now. Now I'm looking, they used to think of me as, thank God I'm not like Rob with his 120 pound, you know, fat around his middle.
Right. Overweight, you know, sickly.
Overweight,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you get past that. So the point being, a lot of the people that are out there, it's their first, they're the ones that are going to be pioneers. They're the ones that are going to go get away from where they've been to go where they want to be. And they don't have anybody to show it to them. And they may get resistance and pushback from friends, from family. Who knows?
And you will. And you will, because I tell my students, I go, hey, once you start moving positively this way, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So start being, you know, get ready for that kind of thing.
Well, and so it goes back to that saying, which I've done, where the why is sufficient, the what doesn't matter. Okay, so if you're dedicated to putting yourself where you want to be, who you want to be with, who you want to live your life and share your life with, what kind of example you want to be to your kids if you have that, whatever that might be. If that's your desire, you guys do an amazing job at connecting what that path looks like. Okay? So what I'm hoping to do is to inspire people to say, okay, that path is going to be easier to follow if I'm emotionally and mentally prepared to do that.
Exactly, which goes back to the 4 agreements, right? Which goes back to the practicing of the 4 agreements, which goes back to you being your own professional athlete. You need to know, you have to practice this stuff. Because if you don't practice this stuff, you're not, it's like if you're not working out and you're a pro athlete, you know, you're gonna fail at that task again. And wow. And the amount of, and this isn't, and you know, now I want to make sure that our listeners know, you can't fix this overnight. This isn't anything that gets fixed overnight. This is years of just being mindful, right? That these things exist and these forces and these choices that you're going to make will result in other things, right? And really knowing how to address those issues using those 4 agreements and the mindfulness.
Yep. Well, I can tell you that I was talking to a friend of mine whose stepfather is in the process of trying to quit smoking. Okay, he's having a heck of a time with it. And so I said, well, in 1998, I quit smoking, and I've been smoking since I was 14. I was a couple of packs a day. I was unfiltered Camels and so forth and so on. And I said, but I really, really, really wanted to quit smoking. It was bad enough that I was 100 pounds overweight, but now I'm also smoking? Come on. So I set a time for myself 6 months down the road. I picked my daughter's birthday in May as the day I would no longer be a smoker. Okay? So every time I had a cigarette, from November to May, every smoke I had, I would tell to myself, okay, when you're a non-smoker, you won't need a cigarette when the phone rings. You want to go outside and have a conversation. When you're a non-smoker, you won't finish a meal and feel like you have to have a cigarette now. Or you won't wake up in the morning with your cup of coffee and have to have that cigarette. So I would tell myself this thing. And the reason I would tell myself these is that I know that smoking is bad for my health. I know that it's costing me money. I know it's going to shorten my life. And my life is too important to give it up for these cigarettes. So I said that to myself 40 times a day, because that's how many packs I smoked, okay? 20 cigarettes.
Mentally visualizing that. So mentally putting a mindful check that I'm about to smoke again and X consequences. So visualizing that. Okay. And then it took you how long? So, you said 6 months of just doing that on a daily?
Every time I did that. So I went from non-filtered cigarettes to filtered cigarettes. I went from filtered cigarettes to light filtered cigarettes. I went from light filtered cigarettes to ultralight filtered cigarettes. And I was weaning myself off of the nicotine. Okay, I was still doing this thing and lighting it up. But when the day before my daughter's birthday came about, I was in San Antonio, Texas on business. And I had about 5 cigarettes left. I looked at those 5 cigarettes and I said, I don't need this shit. And I threw them away. And I woke up the next day and I was cranky as hell. And my wife threw
because of the withdrawals. You're going to go through withdrawals, right?
Absolutely. So there goes the 40 milligram nicotine patch. And when I got through with that, I got another box and I cut them in half. And when I got through with those, I got another box and I cut them in quarters.
The patches, you're making them smaller, so you're you're weaning yourself.
Exactly. And I've never had a cigarette since. I hate even the smoke of the smell of it. And it's been done. So that's the same process I used in my weight loss. It's the same process I've used in all my other bad habits and so forth. It's sometimes I've written them down, and they're an affirmation that I look at and read in the mirror in the morning. So at any rate, the point being,
and that's what goes with with anything you do, right? Any exactly. I was addicted to sugar, right? And when I realized that, I did kind of the same thing. As you pick a date and you start weaning yourself off, because you understand that there's these chemicals, right, that your body is so used to that you're going to react when you cut it off. you're going to go through whatever withdrawals. We do it with people, with love, right? Bad relationships, that kind of thing. And we do it everywhere, right? So, I remember one of my buddies, he was able to reverse his diabetes because he was able to change his diet, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. You had diabetes and now you don't because of a complete diet change, because he realized
he has to do it. I mean, I went from a 10, AC, the quarterly test, right, to like a 6. I mean, I got rid of all that stuff. So, and whether it's a physical problem, okay, whether it's an emotional problem, or whether it's how am I going to deal with my crib, my guys out there, they're giving me all this shit, how am I going to deal with the way that the people make me feel at my school, like I'm not quite up to them, And so whatever your issue is, whether it be emotional, physical, relationship,
money problems, whatever.
Exactly. Use this, put yourself in a frame of mind that is thinking about the successes that you're going to have, life after this problem is solved, okay? And the things that you're going to do to overcome these issues so they're no longer an issue for you, or at least you react differently to them. Life, man, it's all about how you react to things, right? You're given time and choices. That's all we know. We all have that. And some of the choices we have to address, are going to be very, very different from this person to that person and so forth. And we all have to learn how to react in a positive way to all this shit that's our barriers. And if you
even though it's a negative, and even though that may be negative, makes no difference. It's how you respond to the negativity. If it's a positive thing, then you know how to respond.
And when you walk into that job interview, or you open your own business, or you want to go into med school, whatever it is you want to do, okay? If you approach it with the preparation that I've been talking about now through these previous sessions, you're going to have a lot easier time, and you're going to be able to deal with whatever the outcome is, because you know how you're going to react.
And it's funny, you just brought up this med school thing. I just interviewed this doctor, Francisco Solorio. So listeners, listen to that podcast. he literally told me at the end, he said, listen, I asked him, I said, hey, you went through this enormous thing called medical school, undergraduate education, residency, and then special training as an anesthesiologist. And, you did it with coming from some of the low income background, coming from a low income background, first gen background. And I said, what kept you going? He said, Mauricio, before I decided to become a doctor, I did the quick thing, which was much quicker thing, which was emergency medical technician, EMT. Mm-hmm. And so I was in the field, and I was, an ambulance, I was in the ambulance trying to get people to doctors to try to prolong their life, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes, he goes, this kid, I had to pick him up. There was nothing I could do for him. I felt that whole ride. I felt so bad that I wasn't skilled enough to help this young man. He goes, that's the day I said, I don't care how long it's going to take me. I know it's going to be 10, 15 years down the line, but I never want to be in a position where I can't help someone ever again.
Wow.
And slowly, like you said, hey, he planned it out 15, 20 years. And slowly, he goes, no matter what gets in my way, I'm going to overcome it, because I never want to feel like I can't help save someone ever.
I love that. So
I was like, wow.
His why was much more powerful than the obstacles presented in what?
Exactly. And so if you get a chance, listeners, listen to that podcast. It's under Dr. Francisco Solorio with Professor G.
That sounds amazing. Yeah,
so Rob,
that's exactly it. So, yeah.
so Rob, in wrapping up today's podcast, it's you applying your tools now, right? You listen to the first 3 or 4 episodes that we've done. You now know about the 4 agreements. You now know about that you can move into this field called growth mindset. We hear that a lot, right? Being mindful of what's going on in your life, the decisions you make, et cetera, et cetera. So today is more about applying these things and really practicing. And this means practicing with every opportunity you have to practice this, right? With every decision you have to make to practice this, with every decision you have to make in your personal life, in your professional life, in your emotional life, what goes on inside, right? To improve your life, whether it be academically, professionally, emotionally, relationship-wise, etc., so that you live your best life. Wow.
Exactly.
I now see how you wrapped it all up for us.
Well, and so, the technical part of anything we're talking about, opening a business, easy stuff. I mean, if you don't know it, it's not easy, but it's easy to find a good, there's written rules for all these things. It's objective. Okay. Everything's objective. You can find out about these things, I'm a library with all that stuff. That's great. But the subjective stuff is what we're talking about here. Okay. And the stuff that you can choose to become, it's things that you can choose to utilize. And all I'm going to tell you is that if all these things are in your toolbox and you go to, and you want to succeed with whatever it is you have in mind, you'll get there with these tools.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. As usual, listeners, we're going to put Rob's contact information into the description, because he is all about helping you become the best self you can become. So, Rob, thank you very much for your time once again. And
thank you, Professor G. Man, I love these conversations. I really do. It gives me an opportunity to go into my library, if you will, and pull out something. And these things I feel so strongly about. Okay, this is my why. Okay, the rest of my life will be on this track. And so whatever issues, challenges, problems, pushbacks, whatever, give me a call. Let me know. And I'd love to address in future shows how I would suggest using these tools, you can overcome them.
Absolutely, Rob. We'll definitely
thank you so much again.
We'll be adding that to our arsenal, and keep checking in on Minding Your Business with Tio Rob.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. You be well.
Thank you for tuning into Techo Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.